It's that time of year. Oh, it's almost Thanksgiving. I want to eat all the turkey because I'm a fat bitch. And I said 4 years ago I was going to start going to the gym, but I never went. Survivor Series. 2 traditional elimination matches. Supposed to be the best part of the show. Wasn't yesterday. Didn't really care for the elimination matches. The other matches were, however, fantastic. Sasha Banks and Asuka, great. Street Profits and New Day, great. Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, Match of the Year candidate. And of course, the farewell to the greatest character in wrestling history, The Undertaker, which we were treated to yesterday. The only part I didn't like about that segment is that all 30 people that came out, they all got an entrance, which is cool, but it took too damn long. We're going to talk about Survivor Series. That's why I'm here, and that's why you're here. WWE Survivor Series 2020 full show review. What went right? What didn't go right? Stay right here. Survivor Series. Like I said in the intro, it's that one you look forward to. It's the show where you get the tag team matches that have the best wrestlers and they're 65 minutes long. I think 2 or 3 years ago we had a match that was an hour and 10 minutes. Elimination. But unlike on this show, I actually felt that when I was watching this, the Survivor Series elimination matches were actually the least exciting matches, if you ask me. There was actually a dual-branded battle royal that I completely missed at the beginning of the show. So my review on that is going to be pretty crappy. Murphy entered the match by making his entrance alongside Rey and Dominic Mysterio and was defensive of Rey, attacking Dolph Ziggler for eliminating the former world champion. Gable, Hardy, Miz, Elias, and Mysterio were the final 5 men in the match. Hardy and Elias having an active storyline, obviously. They may have figured to be the final 2. Hardy managed to eliminate Elias. Hardy was out next, leaving Miz, Gable, and Dominic Mysterio. Miz appeared to have been eliminated, but barely re-entered the ring before being knocked to the floor by Mysterio. Mysterio and Gable had an extended final 2 segment before Mysterio scored the elimination. As Mysterio celebrated, Miz slid back in the ring, of course, to score the win. We know how the Miz is. The cocky heel that will do whatever it takes to win. And that was no different here. WWE leans a little heavy on the false elimination these days. Again, it's overproduced. It happens a lot in the Royal Rumble, a lot in Battle Royal matches where we see eliminations. Oh, he's eliminated, but technically he went under the ropes. We see that all too often. Running with the finish with Lana. So that knocks some points off for creativity. Otherwise, a Battle Royal is a Battle Royal, and it's hard to get too much or too little out of it. The Miz wins by eliminating Dominic Mysterio. Nothing special. Didn't even see the match. I probably won't go back and watch it. I started watching right after that. I was out doing some things. Now, well, first off, Battle Royals in general have lost their mystique. They used to be very special. I don't know if it's because I've grown up, but for whatever it was, I used to be the guy that was so excited to see the Battle Royals. I mean, the Royal Rumble has a genuine excitement every year, but a lot of times, not so much recently, but a lot of times, at least over the last 7 or 8 years, they haven't been good. They haven't been good. I think from 2015 to at least 2019, the Rumble had about 3 or 4 years where it was just terrible. We had that period before the very, very first draft, 2015, heel authority Seth Rollins. That's when the program was at an all-time low. Not Seth Rollins specifically, but Raw was just... I'm not going to get into that. Men's Survivor Series elimination match. Complete sweep here. Don't really understand that. Styles, Keith Lee, Strowman, Riddle, and Sheamus versus Kevin Owens, Jay Uso, King Corbin, Seth Rollins, and Otis. After the initial run with everyone getting an early offense, Rollins asked to be tagged in after Sheamus entered for Team Raw. Rollins turned and said to his corner, "For the greater good." He then kneeled and allowed Sheamus to hit him with a bro kick, and was the first man eliminated. So Seth Rollins obviously doing the dirt for his team on SmackDown. The middle of the match got a big segment with Otis and Lee doing good beef spots. Again, Otis, you can think what you want. He's nowhere near the category of Keith Lee. Big collisions, power clashes. Obviously, both are very big men. And one of the more interesting bits in the match, Owens would hit stunners on almost all of Team Raw before Styles hit him with a forearm for the elimination. Riddle twisting senton onto Corbin, scored an elimination moments later, giving Raw the 5-on-2 advantage. A lot of times we see this in Survivor Series matches where we see either a comeback or a complete sweep. A lot of times we don't tend to see one-on-ones. I thought Survivor Series last year was good. The matches in this Survivor Series was a good show, but I don't feel that it had anything. The elimination matches were a little bit of a downgrade. Again, CBS Sports, this is where I get my notes off of. They gave this a B. Otis had a nice run of suplexes, but he was next out after running power slam from Strowman, leaving Uso alone against the entire Raw team. Uso was about to hit a splash on Styles when Styles' bodyguard pulled him from the ring, allowing Lee to get a blind tag, catch Uso coming off the top rope, and hit a spirit bomb for the clean sweep of Team Raw. Raw had the stronger story for their team coming into the event, obviously, so it seemed inevitable they would win, but to get the clean sweep was a surprise, and a welcome one at that. The match remained compelling as it was clear the sweep was coming in a nice bonus. It was okay. It wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen. I didn't really get into it. I think you do these 2 Survivor Series elimination matches once a year. There's no need for a sweep. You want to have a gauntlet, or not a gauntlet, or just an 8-on-8, whatever you're doing. But I don't think that the Survivor Series, again, it doesn't have to always come down to one-on-one, but I don't really understand why they kind of had the sweep here. Now, obviously, you look at Team Raw, they're much more skilled. I mean, Styles, Keith Lee, Braun, and Riddle, and Sheamus. Against Owens, Jay, King Corbin, Seth Rollins, and Otis. Couldn't get into it. Just really couldn't get into it. But something I could get into because it was fantastic and I expected nothing less was the Tag Team Champions versus Tag Team Champions. That's the New Day versus the Street Profits. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. The tag team wrestling in WWE may be terrible, and the division may always be very, very scarce. But the teams that are important, the few that are very good. The Street Profits are great. You may or may not be a fan of their gimmick, but regardless, the Street Profits are fantastic. And the New Day are, honest to God, already in the Hall of Fame. After 6 or 7 years, they were a joke gimmick at first, and they are quietly one of the best performing tag teams. When the lights are bright, you can count on the New Day more than any other tag team. New Day entered with Big E, all 3 wearing Gears of War costumes in support of their appearance in the game. The Profits cut a backstage promo about the importance of appearing on Survivor Series, with Ford doing a job of making the team come across as more amped up than usual. Kofi hit a big early dive on Ford. Dawkins was ducking out of the way only to be hit by Xavier Woods coming off of the apron. New Day worked a bit of a heel style, taunting a bit more frequently and isolating Ford with some grinding offense and adding a bit of needed edge to the pairing of babyface teams. The eventual hot tag to Dawkins let the Profits hit their own strong comeback, with Ford kicking off Dawkins' body to hit a sliced bread as the highlight. Kingston and Woods cut the comeback off. They hit the midnight hour on Ford for a 2 count, after New Day had worked Ford's ribs over throughout the match. He was unable to get the pin on Kingston after hitting his frog splash. Dawkins used a blind tag to get into the match, lifting Woods onto his shoulders and scoring the pin after Ford came up off the top rope with a blockbuster. This was an excellent tag match with convincing near falls, big moves, and work that meant something. Not only was Ford unable to get the pin after the splash, but he wasn't the man to score the pin. My light switch went off. I'm not even going to edit this out. How are you? My damn light switch went off midstream. That ain't something, ain't it? This was an excellent match. This was an excellent match with convincing near falls, big moves, and work that meant something. Ford wasn't able to get the pin. Working over a body part and having that carry weight throughout the rest of the match is a rare in modern wrestling, but always appreciated. Street Profits defeat the New Day. Great match. You like tag team wrestling. We can always say what we want about WWE tag team wrestling, but this is going to be one of the matches you're going to want to go back and watch because I said so. What you may not want to watch, which I don't want to watch, is Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn. Bobby Lashley has been much more important since coming into the Hurt Business. Sami Zayn is great. What else can you say? Zayn spent a lot of the early match yelling at the Hurt Business, came to Lashley surround the ring during the match. Zayn had a fair amount of early success, but every time Lashley was able to get the upper hand, he dominated with his power offense. Zayn claimed to have vertigo after a delayed suplex by Lashley, using the distraction for a roll-up that only got a 1 count. He then attempted to get any Hurt Business member to hit from the disqualification. When that didn't work, Zayn tried to get Lashley counted out after ramming him into the ring post. Shelton Benjamin stopped Zayn from exposing the turnbuckle behind the ref's back, as every attempt at a shortcut didn't work out. Zayn ran into MVP on the outside, claiming to have been tripped and calling for the DQ. Obviously, we know how Sami Zayn is. He'll look for any type of shortcut to win the match. MVP threw Zayn back into the ring as the ref was distracted. As Zayn complained to the ref about MVP's involvement, Lashley locked up the Hurt Lock for the win. This was as good as could be expected from the pairing, making Zayn seem like a threat while being unable to use his tricks when outnumbered. Bobby Lashley gets the win against Sami Zayn. Match sucked. Sami Zayn's great. Please put Sami Zayn in something important. What didn't suck, and was what you expect would be, Sasha Banks and Asuka, Raw Women's Champion versus SmackDown Women's Champion. Now, going into this match, we know how valuable both of these women are. It's no shortcut here. We went into this knowing this was going to be a good match. Sasha and Asuka have had very good chemistry with each other, and this was no different. Banks tried for a Banks statement early. Then in retaliation, Asuka tried to lock up the Asuka lock at her earliest opportunity. Banks hit a backstabber moments later, but settled for a 2 count when she couldn't grab the Banks statement in the normal sequence of her moves. Banks focused a lot on her offense on Asuka's arm, hitting arm breakers and arm bars before locking in an octopus hold. Asuka came back with some heavy strike-based offense. I lost my spot. Ain't that terrible? Banks hit another backstabber. This is towards the end, getting a 2 count. I am all over the place today. Banks tried to come off the top rope. Asuka got her knees up, but Banks rolled her through to lock in the Banks statement. Again, Banks could not finish off the Raw champion. After a series of pin exchange, Banks caught Asuka coming off the ropes and scored the win with a jackknife pin. The final stretch got sloppy. The pin's not going smoothly, but they're always good as a pair in the ring. Sasha Banks gets the win. Sasha and Asuka could wrestle a million times over. But you know what couldn't wrestle a million times over? Is the Women's Survivor Series Elimination Match. Now, I honest to God, don't even want to read these notes because this was terrible. This match was sloppy. CBS Sports gave it a B. Again, don't know what they're watching. But this is the Women's Elimination Match. So many names in here, I'm not even going to name them. Actually, why not? And just like that, the browser goes down. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. We'll be talking about football tomorrow, boys and girls. So, it was Nia, Shayna, Lacey, Peyton, and Lana versus Bayley, Natalya, Bianca, Liv, and Ruby. Standard Survivor Series match opening stretch. Lana tagged herself in as Jax's back was turned. This was after earlier segments where Jax and Baszler demanded Lana not be tagged into the match. Jax tagged herself back in. The first elimination of the match was a shock as Bayley was eliminated by Royce, who was forced to tap to Natalya's sharpshooter moments later for her own elimination. Natalya locked Baszler in the sharpshooter, but was dropped by Evans' women's right for the elimination. Baszler locked in the Karafuda clutch on Riot, who tried to spin back into a pinning combination, but was ultimately choked out. Leading to her own elimination, with that elimination, it was Evans, Baszler, Jax, and Lana left for Raw, and just Morgan and Belair for SmackDown. Evans was out after a crucifix bomb by Morgan. Belair was the last woman standing for SmackDown after Jax eliminated her with a Samoan eliminating Morgan with a Samoan drop. Belair gave a good run when trapped in the ring before Jax took over briefly. Baszler tagged herself in as Belair knocked Jax from the ring, and Belair managed to climb to her feet as Baszler had her locked in the Karafuda clutch. Belair got her arm over the bottom rope, but Baszler didn't release the hold, getting disqualified. Despite Belair going unconscious, Belair and Jax battled outside the ring, with both women ultimately being counted out. This meant that Lana was the sole survivor, spending most of the entire match standing on the ring steps, as she should be. Finish was clever in getting Lana the sole survivor spot without having her pull off any sort of actual in-ring miracle. Jax was held back from the referees and did not deliver the consistency Samoan dropped through the announce table to Lana. Team Raw defeat Team SmackDown with Lana as the sole survivor. Not a fan of Lana. Haven't been a fan of Lana since she was paired with Rusev, and I think a lot of us will agree with that. Not interested. But you know what I was interested in? That fantastic main event between Roman Reigns, the Universal Champion, versus Drew McIntyre, the WWE Champion, in a one-on-one match. This was fantastic. Roman Reigns, since his pairing with Paul Heyman, has been doing God's work, and Drew McIntyre has been doing God's work all year long. McIntyre and Reigns went strength for strength early until McIntyre was able to drop Reigns with a big shoulder tackle, forcing Reigns to roll out of the ring and gather his composure. The big shoulder tackle forcing Reigns to roll out of the ring. Things quickly broke down into a brawl when both men landing big strikes until Reigns was able to get the upper hand and drive McIntyre from the ring. Reigns maintained a methodical pace, grinding on McIntyre with strikes and chin locks. to keep Drew from getting into his usual explosive rhythm. Drew made his initial comeback by tossing Reigns across the length of the cage with a belly-to-belly suplex and setting up the Future Shock DDT, only to end up taking a Samoan drop from Reigns. McIntyre ducked a Superman punch and hit a big spine buster for a 2 count. Reigns hit a headbutt from McIntyre and fired back with a big kick to the face. As the action went back and forth, McIntyre managed to hit the Future Shock and get another count. Reigns came back moments later with a Superman punch, but McIntyre didn't go down. McIntyre didn't go down to count. Reigns came back. McIntyre didn't go down to the strike, except Reigns flying with another belly-to-belly. Reigns almost hit a spear, but McIntyre rolled through, locked in a Kimura for a near submission, before Reigns grabbed the bottom rope. As the action went outside, Reigns hit 2 Samoan drops into the announce table. The second one sent him through the table. I know that's probably really frustrating as a wrestler when you have the Samoan drop through the table and it doesn't break the table, because the whole goal of doing it is to break the table, because that's the whole purpose that you're using the table. Reigns ran in for another spear, but McIntyre countered it with a Claymore. Reigns collided with the referee, sending him spilling outside of the ring. Jey Uso ran in and was taken out by McIntyre, and Reigns hit the champion with a low blow. Uso also had a super kick before Reigns locked in a guillotine choke. McIntyre tried to stand up, ended up going out in the hold, giving Reigns the victory. Outstanding match. The finish wasn't likely to be clean, so the finish was set up to protect McIntyre. Absolutely. Roman Reigns beats Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre never got pinned, and he never tapped out. So you keep Drew McIntyre's importance in this match. Not only do you do that, you keep his importance, and Roman Reigns doesn't lose. Because let's be honest, it's going to be a long time before we see Roman Reigns lose a match. The Undertaker's farewell, the whole night was centered around Undertaker's farewell. The only thing I didn't like about this segment was the fact that we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 people all make their entrance to the ring. Full entrance. Now, obviously, these are older guys. All respect, some of the all-time greats. And they took a while getting to the ring, which is no problem. It's their network, run your show. But that was the only part that bothered. I think as the entrances went on, they were cut short. Some of the guys, their music was cut off as they were coming to the ring steps. And you understand why they did that. They did that because it's, let's get it on the road. But all of those men were there, each getting a full entrance. They showed a video package recapping the career of The Undertaker before Vince McMahon delivered a brief message. As you can see, Vince McMahon was delivering his message. He was trying to hold back his emotions. And then all of a sudden, the Phenom's contributions, yada, 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 and he introduces The Undertaker. The Undertaker makes a slow entrance, fantastic entrance, the best entrance of all time. Undertaker stated that after putting so many people to rest, it was now time to rest in peace. As he posed in the ring, a hologram image of Paul Bearer was shown as the bell tolled. Absolutely beautiful. After rising from his knee, Undertaker performed his trademark throat slash and left the ring, making his final walk up the ramp before pausing at the top to throw his fist up one last time. Absolutely beautiful. The greatest thing I've seen since sliced bread. You can't say enough about The Undertaker. And, I know you've heard it all night. He is the greatest character in professional wrestling history by a mile. Top 5 wrestler of all time. The definition of professional class and just talent. You will never, and Vince McMahon specifically stated it himself, you will never see somebody like The Undertaker ever walk through those doors again. Not Daniel Bryan, not John Cena, not anybody. Somebody like The Undertaker is the equivalent of Derek Jeter to the Yankees. Every 30, 40 years, if not longer, you get a player or somebody like that just has a miraculous impact that you will never come across again. You will find guys that are good. You may find guys that are better, but you will never find somebody like that again. If you watch that with a dry eye, you didn't know The Undertaker well enough. WWE Survivor Series, results, all of it. Stay tuned for the NFL Week 11 review tomorrow.